So everyone always asks us, when should they get started with their SAT prep? And there really is no right answer. You need your scores, your final scores, by October of your senior year for most students. But how you maneuver through that and get those final scores is really dependent on the student. For a lot of students, the best time to get started is as early as possible. And so the most common scenario is to take your diagnostic test, your diagnostic SAT and diagnostic ACT in May of your sophomore year. So that way you can determine which exam you're better suited for, better understand how many hours of tutoring and prep you might need to get the goal scores you want, and start to really get an idea of what this whole program starts to look like. And then in the summer, you do most of your studying, right? You don't have school, you don't have as many extracurriculars. You can really focus in on your studying and start to really prep for your first test in September, for your first official exam in September of junior year. And then from there, once you take that first test, you continue studying and take the retesting in October, November, and or December to try to really get your score as high as possible with that super score. Okay, and that tends to work for most students, but it's not for everybody. If you're traveling a lot in the summer, if you're not available to really put your head down and focus on your test prep, then summer might not be the best fit for you, right? It might not align with you. Or if you're just a student who doesn't focus well in the summer because you have summer brain, that's okay too. For the majority of students, the most common time to work on their test prep is throughout their junior year. So what that might look like is you take your diagnostic test at the end of August and start your prep in September with that school schedule. And then you start taking your first test in November and or December and go into retesting in the early spring, and you're done by around February or March with all of your exams that you need. Now, there is one more option, which is kind of the late option, but it's okay, and you're still able to get the scores you want if you start in the spring semester of your junior year. And so what that looks like is that you would start testing with your diagnostics in January, get your prep going through January, February, March, and start to take that first test in April and or May. And then go into retesting June, July, as late as August if needed. Okay. Now, again, that late option, one thing to consider is that you'll have to be maneuvering your test prep throughout your finals, APs, end of the year projects, and things of that nature, which can be extremely stressful. So what we always recommend to students is to kind of get started as soon as possible, but know yourself and know your schedule as well. If you are playing a sport in the winter that will limit your study, get started earlier and do it in the summer, or go afterwards and do it in the spring, right? Know when you will be able to dedicate 3 to 4 months to really get your highest score increase possible throughout this journey.